Hey, everybody. We are here live with our Olympic cycling podcast, and we want to jump right into the conversation. And so, Antoine, do you think that Oscar Salas from Bolivia got robbed in the race this weekend?
I don't. But with the way US UCI works, you don't really get robbed until about 7 years after you win a medal or an event. So we'll make sure to figure that out at that point. But as of right now, he's not been robbed yet.
Okay,
I,
well,
I, I'm in the wrong podcast.
yeah, I think I actually started the wrong one.
You've done that a couple times tonight, Rick.
I know.
Yes. It's Olympic week here, in case you didn't know that, or you're watching this so much after the fact on YouTube, and we're just kind of playing around. No, this is actually the Theotek podcast. I'm Kevin Purcell, and we are all donning our favorite caps, and we're here ready to talk about technology as it relates to the Christian life, which is who we are. And tonight we're going to jump in and talk about the iPad Pro 9 months in. 9 months is plenty of time now where it has either become a part of our lives or something that we've set aside on a nightstand only to use on occasion. And so we're going to go around the horn and first say hello to, we just said hello to Antoine. LaRosa, hello to you. How are you tonight?
Doing well as the resident Nationals fan in the house.
Yeah. Are you an iPad Pro owner?
I was for a week.
A whole week. You loved it that much?
It just didn't fit into the workflow that I had set up.
Yeah, I understand. I know Rick is. Rick has talked many times about the iPad Pro, and we'll hear more about it from him. But hello, Rick. Good to see you tonight.
Hello, Kevin. Am I the only person not wearing a sports team hat? I'm wearing my Tabasco hat since you were all wearing hats. And look, I'm also drinking community coffee, so that's two Louisiana staples right there.
You are. That hat is the hottest hat of the group, so I like it.
That's exactly
And
right.
to be fair, it does say sportswear.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that was all I had when I went to buy it.
Hey,
But I bought it on Avery Island.
the tour of, what's the island called? The
Avery Island, that's where I bought this.
Avery Island. The tour of the Avery Island is really cool. If you can ever go there, it's worth the trip if you can put it into maybe a trip going to New Orleans.
There is a YouTube video of me eating the raw pepper mash right out of the barrel.
Oh, wow.
How hot
Yeah.
was that?
Someone find
It's
it
like
real quick so
40
we can
times hotter.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, that's Wes, who is also
Hi.
donning some Phillies gear, it looks like.
Yay.
Yay. Wes has the wonderful distinction of literally being maybe one of the newest iPad Pro owners on the planet, since as we were preparing for the podcast, he opened his iPad, sort of did a little unboxing, if you will, for us
Yes.
before we went live.
Still backing up, and we're still restoring from backup. So
So tell us,
Yay.
has it totally changed your life?
In 9 minutes, yes.
Yeah, I thought so.
It has changed it. I will have to say I did give it a name. All my iDevices are all named after characters from Lord of the Rings. So I named my iPad Pro Tom Bombadil.
My favorite. Didn't make the movie.
That's the thing. He's really big, and a lot of people don't understand why he's there. That seems to be the iPad Pro. So we're good.
There you go. I love Tom Bombadil. Well, let's jump over here to Wes, or to Rick, rather. You kind of gave us this idea, hey, let's talk about the iPad 9 months later, and we kind of liked that thought. So, Rick, tell us, what are your thoughts? You know, you've had it 9 months now, and I understand you're pretty actively using your iPad. So give us kind of just a short little,
Well, the impetus, and I don't know if you had that video already, but the impetus for the discussion was that Apple came out with a commercial about the iPad Pro as a computer,
Mhm.
and yet there's been a lot of talk in the tech press from that in the last week or so, including the interesting note that the iPad Pro has been a big seller among businesses and corporations. At least 50% of all sales have gone to businesses, which I find really interesting. It is still my my tool of choice. I'm not on it tonight. I'm on my Windows machine. Number one, because on the iPad Pro they put the camera over here on the side instead of the top, and also in Google Hangouts you can't have this pretty lower third like I've got. So I'm on my Windows laptop instead. But it has remained ever since I had it, and I knew it would be. It has remained my device of choice. If I can do something on the iPad Pro, I do. If I'm going somewhere where if I'm going to a meeting at church or or any kind of something like that where I need to take a few notes, I just take the iPad Pro. I've got the smart cover that has the built-in keyboard, and it works very well for me. But there are still some things that I cannot do. I mean, if I could go 100% iPad, I would, but I'm not there yet. But I do believe strongly, and we can talk about this. But I do believe strongly that for many people, they could be iPad only, and it might also even be interesting tonight to talk about Microsoft's tablet strategy versus Apple's, because it's two very different directions that may end up meeting in the middle one day. I don't know, but nevertheless, it's two interesting approaches to it.
Well, Antoine, I think you are kind of almost. Are you pretty much an iPad only for your personal computer?
With the exception of the times that I use an open source Yola tablet, yes. I use my iPad Pro as a workstation, TV, occasional fly swatter. Yeah, I use it for everything.
Wait, what? Occasional.
Fly swatter. Have you seen?
It's an expensive fly swatter when the glass breaks.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, it's big enough that it does a great job there. But no, really, I mean, I use my iPad Pro enough that I have to give it a break when I come home and jump on my Mini. I use it all day, so I'm working 8 to 10 hour days. The battery is beautiful because it goes the entire day. I usually get home at about 30%. And I'm doing user interface design. So I'm in Paper, Evernote, browser, Wi-Fi connected all day on a not always great Wi-Fi network. Email, Exchange, 9 email accounts, and the calendars with it. I'm fairly busy on mine. Adobe products. So is it possible to just use the iPad by itself with the absolute exception of one part of my workflow? Yes. One part is just limited by the site that we use, but absolutely everything else, iPad only.
Yeah, I think that's my case. I like using a computer that is not just a tablet, and so I like my laptop. I have a desktop system that I have in my church office, and I like using it. And so since I have them, I'm going to use them. But if someone held a gun to my head that you got to give up one of these systems, the iPad wouldn't be the first one, that's for sure. It would be one of the last that I would give up. Probably I'd hang on to the MacBook ultimately, and then my iPad second to last. Because I think it is a computer. Obviously, it's more powerful than any computer I owned until about the last 5 or 10 years, maybe 5 years ago. It's that's about where the power.
Well, and in some
it's more powerful than a computer that you bought 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, really.
Yeah, I mean, consider the ability to edit 4K video. I can do that easier on my iPad than I can on my MacBook.
Yeah, and that's when you think of not just pure raw power versus raw power iPad to laptop. When you think of how well the software makes use of the powerful, I think in some ways it's better than a lot of computers out there. It's far better than most of those $200 or $300 computers that you can get at Best Buy or Target or wherever you're getting a cheap flimsy.
Oh heck yeah! I'd rather have an iPad than anything like that.
My wife has this system. It's an HP Stream, 32 gigabytes of storage space, 2 gigabytes of memory, and we can't update it to Windows 10 update. Anniversary update because there's not enough storage space on it, and the way to update it through a hard drive, I still have yet to get it to work. If you told that little laptop, I wouldn't take 5 of those for my iPad Pro, so that's just the way I am. But as far as for our audience, which is very interested in things like Bible study and using their iPad for ministry, I think the Bible apps are there now where you can use them. Probably 80% and maybe even 90% of pastors, Sunday school teachers, people who are doing basic Christian research or biblical study could probably use an iPad and one of the many great Bible apps, like Accordance, Olive Tree, Logos.
Yeah.
Well, and we've talked about before, what I do on Sunday, I can't even do on a laptop, where I use the split screen, and I've got presentation mode in Keynote, and PowerPoint will do this too. Presentation mode here, so I can see the slide, I can see the notes, the audience just sees my slide, and then on the other side I've got Accordance, and I've got my Bible, and I've got my notes there, or I could have two text if I wanted to. I can't do that on a laptop at all.
And Rick, that is what sold me.
Yeah.
The fact that I can still use presentation mode with the presentation and have something else open on the other side, that was it.
It's brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
So Wes, what do you plan to do now that you've got it? What was it that said, hey, I'm going to go out and get this? You just mentioned doing presentation.
That was the big thing. For my writing, because now that that was the other thing that finally just went, yeah, I'm getting it now. Because when Scrivener for iOS came out, it was so good on my iPad Air that adding split screen multitasking into it and being able to search somewhere else while still writing in my document, that was just pretty dang cool. So I'm really looking forward to that. It should be fun.
Yeah, we're actually going to have a little chat about Scrivener itself in a little bit here. Let's see, I'm trying to share it. My screen.
Hey Wes, I didn't even realize Scrivener could do split screen.
That's the desktop version, isn't it?
Everything's frozen for me.
iOS.
Well, tell us what Scrivener is. Some people, it's kind of an obscure piece of software for some. What is it? Hello?
The whole thing froze up for me for a second. I'm checking my download speed.
Tell us about
healthy. So
Tell us about Scrivener, LaRosa.
Well, Scrivener is basically like the ultimate writer's app. No matter what kind of writing you do, like if you're just a blogger, someone who's writing books, writing screenplays and scripts and all that kind of stuff, Scrivener is basically your go-to program for keeping all of your thoughts and writings organized. So there are people like Michael Hyatt and a few other really big names that swear by this software. And I just started using it a couple months ago, and I've been blown away by it.
And so this was the thing that made you, Wes, say, hey, that's what makes I want an iPad now, because this does split screen mode.
it's supposed to do it, yeah.
It doesn't seem to be working on mine.
Well, that makes me unhappy, but it's just that was a key. I'll have to take a look at it, but it's just the screen is that big. The presentation modes are huge. Scrivener. The other cool thing for having the iPad Pro and that much real estate is there's a lot of times where I'm going to have one document open and writing, and I want to reference another document that's in the project, and you can do that inside Scrivener iOS. And the way you have it right now, Kevin, that you have it set up, you see your binders on the left, and it's not even quite a third of the screen. You can expand that to be a little bit more, and then preview another document in that secondary window.
Rick doesn't realize we've already shown his Avery Island video.
There we go.
Well,
So, that was pretty good. And on the iPad Pro, that added real estate for the secondary document on the side there is just going to be amazing. So I'm really kind of excited. I can show you how to do it, Kev. If you go to
we'll talk about Scrivener in a little
okay, go ahead.
I want to focus on using
That's
that.
okay.
We actually planned on talking about it tonight. I think for me the iPad has become a number of things. It's a great mobile tool when I don't want to bring a laptop with me. Yeah, I've got Accordance, I've got Logos, I've got my reading folder with a few other apps, and then I've also got a Bible app folder that everybody keeps wanting to notify me that they're
Turn on your Do Not Disturb.
Well, that's just too hard. So, it's that. It's a presentation tool. I preach from it. I pull up Word, and that's where my notes are. If I'm doing a presentation while I'm teaching, I go split screen PowerPoint Word sometimes. It's of course I read. I've got a texture subscription, which, by the way, if you like magazines, is a great thing to get. I'm trying to think of other ways that I use it. And that's another thing I was using until the beta of Mac OS 10.11 came out. I was using it with Duet quite a bit to.
Oh yeah. Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Does Duet not work with it? I haven't
Beautiful
tried
second screen from Mac OS to the having those two together, because it's almost the exact same size. It's just a tiny bit smaller than my 13-inch MacBook Pro.
Is Duet not working with iOS 10?
No, when you open it, here's what happens when you open it.
I could have sworn that I've used it with iOS 10.
Well, now maybe it's going to, but until just now, every time it opened, it would give me a little thing across the bar here, across the top, that said, this has not been optimized to work with your version of iOS. It's not a Mac OS. It was iOS.
That's an iOS message that comes out when they haven't updated it. When they haven't updated an app to 64-bit. So that should still work even in spite of that.
Well, it doesn't. It hasn't in the past.
I'll have to test it out later.
Yeah. I'm not sure, what the issue was, but I just haven't opened it. I figure, well, I'll get to it later.
But you're right, though. That is a very handy use for an iPad, and I've done that before, where I've had my MacBook and my iPad, side by side as a 2-monitor setup, like in a Starbucks or somewhere.
See, that's one of the things that I'm not in favor of. Not to say that it's not possible, but I think, Rick, you brought up Apple's most recent commercial about the iPad, and Apple pitching it as, it is a computer, not treating it as a side computer. I think part of the issue with the messaging with the iPad has been those of us who are familiar, who are very comfortable with configuring, being tweak heavy with our computers, we see the iPad more as an aside, as a second screen. Whereas I think that the value of an iPad is literally when you put it in a posture of being a primary computer. And yes, I know the software may not be there for many applications, but when you start going down the line of turning it into a second screen, whether you're using Duet or Wacom software or some of Adobe's earlier apps, you lose a little bit of what makes the iPad a
certainly
computing device, I think.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you don't want to buy an iPad Pro to use as a second screen.
Yeah,
obviously.
Number one, there's a lot.
But it's a handy feature when you need to have two screens, and you're in a mobile situation.
It's like this. I would never buy a car in order to power to jumpstart other vehicles. I mean, that's
right.
That's all I'm going to do with it is jumpstart other vehicles. I'm not buying a car. But since my car has a battery and I've got jumper cables, I can jumpstart other vehicles with it. That's what Duet is on the iPad Pro. It's that kind of a thing.
I guess my coworkers and I, the entire user experience team that I work with, we just about all of us have an iPad Pro now. We had a very good demonstration of an upcoming piece of software. That's how much I can talk about it. And because of that demo, everybody went out and actually bought and purchased an iPad Pro, 9.7 or 12, which is pretty impressive. I wish I got royalties for that. But it's interesting how about half of the group, really does use it as an aside to their MacBook in every case, and then the rest of us use it as the one and only, which is really interesting. It's the differences in use and what we're able to create when you bend the iPad as a first computer versus a secondary computer. I think you see it as kind of like Apple positioned it in that commercial as a computer that does more or enables more.
It doesn't have to be either or. It's a both and for most people.
Yeah.
So
You know where I definitely have almost completely quit using a computer, and I favor the iPad is with photographs. You know, I will let my photos download on my computer just merely as a backup, but for image manipulation, for organization, for sharing, I use the iPad Pro, because I have this wonderfully large screen, and to me, photographs are made for touch. To manipulate them, to turn them, to touch them up, or whatever. It's just, or even with the Apple Pencil, it just seems to be made for that.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, now that Lightroom Mobile accepts RAW files, I'm right with you.
I'm showing you Lightroom, my son's graduation photos that we took the day before, I think, his graduation, and so these photos I did all of the edits on this only on my iPad, even though I have the desktop version of Lightroom. So I agree with you. I prefer that. The other thing I had just a minute ago was Adobe Premiere Clip is very limited compared to Adobe Premiere, obviously. But what I like about it is, for simple, you got a video, you want to throw a title on it, you want to stream maybe 2 or 3 videos together, you're done. You can do this. If it's just a real simple edit like this, then you're ready to go. And so I enjoy using the iPad for this kind of editing. First of all, it's so close up. If you're starting to go blind like I am, I'm getting so it's nice to have it close to my face in my lap while I'm still with my wife in the room, and she's watching something or reading something, and it's a nice thing. So for when we're talking people using ministry, I think it's an excellent tool for Bible study, for word processing. It's an excellent tool for general off hours kinds of things like entertainment, surfing the web, checking email. It's an excellent tool even for video and photo editing if you're going to do simple video editing, but you can do pretty complex photo editing.
Yeah, you can.
You really can.
And there's lots of great tools. Pixelmator is a great tool. The built-in Photos app is it's not great in my opinion, but I know some people use it quite a bit. So
can I throw a devil's advocate question at Antoine?
Ask away, sir. Okay,
so let's make the comparison with the Surface. And let me say up front, I like the Surface. I've owned 3 of them. And if I were in the market for another Windows machine, I'd probably go buy a Surface. But for when you talk to the hardcore Surface people, they put down the iPad, especially the iPad Pro, and they say, why would anyone want to get an iPad Pro when you can get a Surface that will not only have tablet apps on it built for touch, but has all your other apps too? You can just have this one device that does everything.
Because usually speaking, those are people who really sit in a spreadsheet. That's my discussion to those persons at my job. We have that other group that does have the Surface discussion. I find the Surface is a very handy laptop acting tablet that works best when it's used like a laptop. None of the software for doing the UI UX work that I do is good on Windows. None, zero, zilch. The web-based stuff is decent, but native Windows 8 or 10 user interface, user experience software is horrible. When I want to go ahead and dig into a spreadsheet and toss together some pivot tables, or maybe do some Power Pivot stuff, you can only do that in the current desktop apps for Excel. So that's Mac OS or Windows, and that is a limitation imposed on the tablet end. But really, between the two of them, if I find that those folks who are going to do number crunching totally find the Surface as a better value. I still do not like how much of an administrator that you have to be with Windows. Um, I just don't like being an admin anymore. Um, and which is to say you lose a bit of that control, a good bit of that control when you go to iOS. On the Surface, you can pretty much do anything you want. I mean, you even got distributions of Linux that you can throw on there to
Hmm.
even further refine your usage. With if you need that level of control with that level of hardware, it is impressive hardware. I still find that it runs a little bit hot, but it's impressive.
But
Well,
you have a requirement. You have to use a piece of software that only runs on Windows or a Mac, and you only can afford one device, and you want a two-in-one, which is what the iPad Pro has become, and what the Surface is. If those are your categories of those check marks that you have to check off, then the Surface is a better solution than
Well, the
the
Surface
iPad.
is the only
But
solution.
that's an
And if it only
incredibly
runs,
narrow group of people, in my opinion. If you
well,
want a tablet that you can use occasionally as a laptop, then go with the iPad Pro. If you want a laptop that can be occasionally used as a tablet, then you go with the Surface Pro.
Yeah.
I argue
Well,
that's a bit.
and for what it's worth, although I'm not a heavy number cruncher, I was in a spreadsheet on my iPad Pro earlier this afternoon. I
I
was
gotta
I was in
say,
I was in Excel,
Yeah, I
and,
mean
and
much heavier than what Excel on the iPad allows. So right
sure.
now, I teach Excel classes, for example, and I teach fairly advanced Excel classes. I cannot teach half of my classes due to that feature literally being missing on Excel for iPad, iOS. I have to that's definitely a requirement. I have to use Windows or Mac OS
But but
X
but you
device
know
in
what?
order
I,
to
I think one
proceed.
thing that has really helped the iPad, especially the iPad Pro, is the fact that Microsoft Office has a very nice mobile version of the Office apps on there. In fact, it made me leave all of the iWork apps except for Keynote, which I had used since 2010 when the iPad was first released. Once the Microsoft version of Word and Excel were available, I started using those. Now I still prefer Keynote over PowerPoint, but to Microsoft's credit, I think they called a truce on the war, and they made these available not only for iOS but also for Android, and they're very nice apps.
Yeah, the Microsoft apps are excellent, are well done, are very well done. They really stand as the way you're supposed to build a productivity
The
tablet
iOS
application.
mobile apps from Microsoft are better than the iOS mobile apps for the modern UI on Windows. They are.
that is kind of weird. I've always kind of thought that was odd.
That's telling, isn't it? Well,
It's kind of like the Google apps being better on iOS than they are on Android.
Yeah.
what's that? Say that again?
That's it. That's just like the Google apps being better on iOS than they are on Android.
Yeah, a number of them are. Let's go forward in this discussion, and we're pro iPad Pro, most of us, if not all of us. I know, LaRosa, would you say you'd love to have one, but it just didn't fit your
Or
thing?
would you recommend one?
Problem? You'd probably get one too, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, if I had a use for it, I would buy one. I would have kept the one that I had. And the one thing that I'm really hoping for in the next couple of months, either like September or October, whenever Apple decides to have their next device event, is a mini with pencil support.
And that's where I
Because
was
I absolutely love the pencil.
going to say that. Yeah, so let's make that our new discussion topic about this. What's missing? And LaRosa, for you it's a size issue. Why is the mini a better option than even the 9.7-inch iPad Pro, which is still smaller than the first one?
Well, for me, my iPad is mainly a reading device. So like I'm reading books, articles, web pages, all that kind of stuff on it, and it's what I take to church because honestly, it's small enough to where I can fit it in my back pocket, and I really like having that size. And so because of that, I just like using it. And right now I'm using like the 53 pencil, but I'd really love to have the Apple Pencil just because I've used it on the iPad Pro because we have one in the office, and it works really well.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that. I would love to have a mini with pencil support. That's the only change I would that I would say that I would really want. I definitely don't want the keyboard on the mini. This keyboard would be way too small in the mini size. I don't even like.
I want the screen too from the new iPad Pro, the smaller one.
Say that again.
But I want the screen from the 9.7 iPad Pro.
The screen quality, but not the size.
No, the screen itself is a whole different screen. It's amazing.
I know, that's what I'm saying. You want in the mini size, but with the quality of the 9.7-inch screen.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, that screen. Whew.
I agree.
Man,
That's
if you
that's
do
what I would,
not have failing eyesight, I would totally recommend the 9.7, even if you like the 12. If your eyes have any kind of color balance issues, or you're a type of person who needs the dimmer light, the dimmer screens, that you can't beat the 9.7. It is absolutely the best screen that you can buy on any device. It's amazing.
all right. What other things would you like to see changed? Those of you who have used it.
Well, as I've already mentioned, I'd like to see the camera move to, if you have it, as I mentioned earlier, if you have it in this orientation with a keyboard, that camera really needs to be up here at the top instead of over here at the side, because to me that's not the top. I don't even like to use FaceTime in that orientation.
And it seems weird too because their stand is set up for that way, and so why wouldn't they put the camera in a place that makes sense for that?
Exactly.
It's one of those things that if they change it, half of the people will go, "Oh, what'd you do that for? Oh, that's terrible. Who wants to use the camera that way?" You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, everybody will blame it. Now we're going to go out and get a whole new set of screen protectors.
Then put a camera in both places.
Yeah, that's the solution. And again, that adds complexity and a little bit of cost, and so I don't know. I sort of don't think you'll get that one.
I bet you though, if they surveyed the pro users, I bet you most of the pro users would prefer to have it moved.
And because most people are enterprise who are buying these, they wouldn't mind it.
I think you're right about the larger pro, definitely.
And I think the one thing else I would change about the iPad Pro, at least the 12-inch, is just utilizing the screen real estate. There's too much padding between icons. You can fit like another 2 or 3 rows of icons on there.
Oh yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, let me share my screen so you guys can see what he's talking about here. I mean, look at that. You could easily do, what's there, 5 across now? You could easily do 7 across and 5 down, 6 down. Maybe.
Yeah. The rumor that I've heard recently is that iOS 10.1 is going to be updated for the iPad Pro, where it really does some of those kinds of things.
Cool.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I wish they would do something different with just the iOS interface in general. I think
Springboard.
The Springboard is long in the tooth. Really could use some changes that some of the iOS or some of the Android things that are available could really. I would love to see some things come into active tiles on the desktop on these tiles. I should be able to this things icon. I should be able to, if I want, make it bigger and see the things that are in my things icon. There's no reason it's got the power now to do that. There's no reason not to do things like that. Or the date, instead of showing me just today's date, show me a little bit more. But even if you didn't do that, even if you didn't add that much, Apple lets you do it on theirs. Can you do that on others? Like, could Notability here in the center of the screen, could they have some updating feature? I don't think so yet. They haven't opened that API up yet, have they?
No.
No. See, I'd like them to open that up. Even just that simple little change would be a nice update. Let other people do what you do with your own apps.
I mean, I don't know if I want to see the screen get too busy. I understand the live icons, and this is what makes me finally see the value of live icons for real fast things. But I also don't know if I want the Springboard to become busy.
No,
It just
I'm with you there. I don't want Springboard to become any busier than it is. I actually would go for removal, more removal of icons and padding. Honestly, what they really
What do
need
you
to
mean by
do is
removal of icons?
yeah, the icons themselves can 90% of the icons, or at least the applications on iOS, they really don't need an icon, if you will, a launching icon. They need to be launched in the context of a program, kind of like the
Or
option that Workflow gives you, where you can launch things in an action extension in order to trigger off an action. You know,
I use
have an
Spotlight a
action.
lot to launch an application because I can do it from the
yeah.
keyboard with Command Spacebar, and I that's quicker to me than going to the screen where I've got it, and then going into the folder that I've got it.
Wait, Command Spacebar works on. I didn't
Oh
know
yeah,
that. Oh,
yeah. Well, in fact, in
cool.
any app, in here I'll teach you something, Wes. In any app, hold down the Command button, and it'll show you all of the Command keyboard shortcuts.
Oh, that's awesome. By the way, I can confirm that Scrivener works in split screen multitasking. Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
And just Command
Uh,
Spacebar to launch it, to type in an app and launch it.
I'm happy. Now, Antoine, I think what I wouldn't mind is if you had the option to leave your Springboard on half the screen and have either not notifications or something else on the other half, or even a third.
that's kind of how iOS 10 almost breaks down that
Well,
screen.
that's the lock screen. I wouldn't mind it even for the
Um,
live workspace,
Almost, yeah, I could see that being the case.
because then you're
I know.
still getting, and it's an option, so you still have the added complexity if you want, but you don't have to necessarily use it. I think that would be a good compromise.
Mm,
All right, two
yeah,
more questions.
I know the
Keyboard,
changes I can do. Oh,
keyboard recommendation, Antoine.
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't get
Uh,
any keyboard at all for it.
no, I don't have a keyboard for mine, and I write 800 plus word missive
You do
pieces.
it
It's
right on
easy.
the screen.
I still write on the screen. It's
Okay.
easy. Maybe I'm a screen generation junkie or what have you, but the size of this keyboard, whether it's in landscape or portrait, it's very easy to write.
Well, I could
Um,
never write.
keyboards add bulk, and bulk slows me down. So,
I
uh,
could never ever do that. I can't write
and
on
I
the keyboard on the
and I
screen.
do a lot of voice. I do a lot of voice as well. So
Yeah,
speech
I
to
can't
text.
write with voice.
Okay.
Go
Wait,
ahead, Kevin.
Rick, you've been a user for a long time. Keyboard recommendation?
Yeah, well, I've been very pleased with the smart cover keyboard from Apple. You know, the day that I bought my iPad Pro, which I was in there the first day they had them, the keyboards weren't even available on that day. I have a feeling that there was a backdoor deal with Logitech. You know, it was like, okay, if you designed this to work with the what do we call that connector, the smart connector, whatever
Smart
it is.
connector.
Yeah, if you design this, we'll make sure that yours are in abundance in our stores the first day. That's my hunch of what happened. Um, I actually liked the keyboard itself from Logitech better. They had a whole row of function keys. It was backlit, but I didn't like the whole case that it was in. I didn't like that case that it just made it so big and so heavy that I didn't even try one out. I thought, well, I'll wait till the Apple one comes out, and if I don't like it, I'll then go ahead and get the Logitech. Well, I've got this. I've got the smart keyboard, and I'm very pleased with it. I do wish it had some of those functions. You know, I wish it had something like an escape key, because sometimes you're in an app that I think an escape key would work. Some of those function keys that would be helpful for controlling volume and things like that, so that I wouldn't have to reach up and touch the screen. But as far as the feel, I really like the feel. You know, they said that this was the same keyboard technology that's in the Retina MacBook, the 12-inch MacBook. I don't like that. I have one of those MacBooks. I don't like that keyboard, but this keyboard is actually fine. There's supposed it's supposed to be cloth over it. It doesn't seem like cloth, or the threads are very very small, very very thin on it. But it's I've typed all day. I've typed from the moment I was at 100% down until I wore it down to 0, and I've been fine on that keyboard, so I really like it.
Cool.
I agree with you. I think that the Apple Smart keyboard is the best option right now that's
Yeah,
available.
right now.
Again, I owned the Logitech Create keyboard. First of all, it costs more. It's like what, $30 or $20 more
Yeah.
than the one that Apple sells. And second of all, it, like you said, it feels so bulky. This doesn't add that much bulk, and it's really easy to pop off, but it doesn't pop off on its own really easily. You know what I mean by that? In other words, it doesn't pop off when I don't want it to, but it does pop off very easily when I do want it to.
It can be a little bit clumsy at times, but if you're trying to fold it backwards or whatever, but overall, I'm very pleased with it.
Yeah, I never can get it to work right in this mode. How is that?
Yeah, I have to think about that one. I do use that sometimes. I use that when I use Duet, but so that I don't accidentally type on the wrong keyboard, because I've done that. But that one is difficult. I have to stop and think about how to do that.
Yeah, I think the folding is a little bizarre. I did go get the smart keyboard because I do like the keyboard for long typing, and I'm with you, Rick. I know it's the same technology. It feels like there's more travel distance, and whatever they're using for the cover provides just enough cushion that you don't feel like you're banging on glass.
Yeah.
But Antoine, I have written pretty lengthy sections, especially since the Scrivener's come out for iOS, just on my iPad Air, typing on that. It's a little frustrating. I'm cramped on that. I'm going to be interested to see how I get used to the larger screen. I am not certain I'm going to like it. And the reason why is because it feels like I should be able to touch type, but without that tactile feedback, I know I'm going to be hitting wrong keys.
It's as I said earlier today when we were talking. It's the best iOS on-screen keyboard that's ever been on the iPad Pro, and I've typed a good bit on it. It's just that I prefer to have a regular keyboard if I'm going to.
And that really is just a matter of preference.
So. I will tell you to trust the keyboard, and that's the thing. Autocorrect with iPhone. Folks had that learning curve between the original iPhone and the 3G of learning to trust the keyboard. It really is the same going from an Air or a Mini to the larger Pro. You really do have to trust the keyboard. Touch typing is really not the same. About the only issue that I actually run into is my hands slide across the keyboard, kind of similar to the new MacBook. A lot of folks talk about their fingers kind of slide across the buttons, land on there. It's kind of that kind of feeling as you're going back and forth across the keys. But it's definitely a different long type experience than it is on the normal iPad.
So Rick, why not just get this keyboard? Well, that's $100. I just realized that's just almost as expensive. But why not just get a Bluetooth keyboard, say for $50?
Well, and for some people that's a good solution, and I'm not knocking that solution, but it's two things to carry, and for me it's just easier to have this keyboard built into the cover.
Yeah, and I love my Apple wireless Bluetooth keyboard.
Yeah, I've got two of them.
For that. It's my favorite keyboard to type on.
I've got one right here.
But I can throw this in with the keyboard into my bag with my laptop and use whatever I want wherever I am. And if I'd have the keyboard, I'd have to do something else. Yeah, that's my favorite keyboard that I've ever used.
And then so much better than the new version.
The new version I think needs a little bit more. It needs a little bit more angle, and it's too light, so it slides around a little bit.
Yeah, are you talking about the new one?
The new one, yeah.
Yeah,
it's still very comfortable to type on, but
I would never buy that one.
Yeah, I like the old one better.
What about the pencil? Any thoughts?
I love my pencil. I charge it all the time, but I just never use it. It's here in my little case that's on the back of my iPad.
I use a pencil every day. Every day.
I'd love to find
my Christmas present.
I'm just not an artist.
Yeah, it'll be my Christmas present.
I use it every day. I mean, it's good for what it does. The hand recognition is awesome. The pressure recognition works well. I still prefer the weight of the 53 pencil stylus. LaRosa mentioned it earlier. I still have my golden one. The weight is better, but the point on the pencil is better. So, it definitely gets the nod. And like I said, I use mine every day. I'm literally charging mine right now. That's very hard to beat to top it off in 15 minutes while getting your coffee in the morning.
Hey Kevin, how do you compare the pencil with the Surface's pen?
First of all, if I didn't have this case that I have that Rick recommended that I get. You know, with
Okay.
a little pen holder on the back of it.
Uh-huh.
I would be still very frustrated that this doesn't have this
Right.
or this. And what I'm pointing to here is a magnet
Yeah.
that is, if you remember, we had on our show a friend of mine that had a device that would hold the pen to the Surface 3.
Yep.
But I don't use that anymore because this new pen with the Surface Pro 4 is so good. And I just wish that Apple had come up with something similar to that. I'm not sure what you're seeing there.
What is he doing, Anthony? What are you doing?
See, that's how I use the magnet on the bottom of the screen. So the same magnets that they use are really handy for holding the cap.
That's a good idea.
I never
I
thought
do it all the time. It doesn't get lost, and literally, it's like two magnets at the bottom of the screen. It just rolls right on over. It stays right there. No
That's
issues
smart.
at all. Yeah,
Really cool.
I mean, yeah, that's the easiest way to not lose it. It can't hold the whole pencil, but it definitely holds the cap. So you don't have to worry about the cap getting lost. You know, and I know there's some solutions out there. You know, $7, $10 solutions for it, but that's great.
It is kind of funny. It's kind of funny that they advertise the pencil in that ad with if your iPad was a computer, and at the end they roll it towards the keyboard, and that's like everybody's biggest complaint with the pencil is that it rolls around on its own and there's nothing to stop it.
Well, it's weighted. It will stop. I mean, they weighted it in such a way where it won't just keep rolling.
Okay.
Let me just give you an example of that. My pencil just rolled off onto the floor, and the cap
Probably doesn't work now.
The cap went flying somewhere. I couldn't find it, and that's why I muted my screen so you wouldn't see my butt right in front of
All
you.
you have to do is use all you have to do is use the bottom of the iPad, and the magnet from the bottom of the iPad will just, you know, needle in a haystack style. It'll find and attract the cap.
The magnet's in the bottom.
Yeah, it's magnet in the bottom. That's how this is staying here. It's just magnet. It's a magnet in the cap, and the magnets are in the bottom right by the speakers. It's really simple, dimple.
That doesn't feel like that's going to stay.
It holds the
Simple,
cap. It
dimple.
doesn't hold the whole thing. It just holds the cap. See?
Yeah, that's not going to stay real well.
Oh
Just
yeah.
in case people think it's going to stay great, it's not.
Well, it'll stay while you're charging. I think that's the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, while it's sitting very stationary.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
You
don't need to
don't
move
want
it
to be
around
running around while you're charging it. You'll end up stabbing yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still think Apple needs to come up with something Surface Pen and Surface Pro like, where the other end has magnetism built in and then it snaps right to it. That Surface.
Yeah, it should just snap to the smart cover.
This is magic right here. I mean, this is perfect. So.
Yeah, if it just connected to the magnet on the smart cover, it'd be great.
Yeah. And then, you know, the pen clip for people who like clips, you know, I wish you can get one if you buy. There's a place on the internet that shows the exact pen that if you buy this pen, you can take the clip off of it and put it on. What you showing me here?
See? It holds onto the smart cover's magnet. This is the whole pen.
Okay.
I thought you didn't have a smart cover.
I do. I just have just the cover. Yeah.
Oh, okay. The cover, not the
Just
keyboard
the cover. I don't have the keyboard. No keyboard.
Okay.
But yeah, it can hold onto the bottom of the cover, on the magnet on the cover. It actually can go inside of the little crevice, but you can't close it. You can't close it on the device when you put it in the cover. So it can actually stay in that area. And
it does not do that on the keyboard. The keyboard, it does not do what you're doing.
Oops. See? That's why you don't need a keyboard.
All right. Anything else that you'd like to either, you know, complain about the iPad Pro? What's an improvement you'd like to see? Anybody?
I think the only other thing I would mention is just making the pencil a little bit shorter.
Really?
Yeah.
How comes? Overly weighted, or what's going on?
Just to make it more pocketable.
Interesting. Okay.
For the Pro, the 12-inch, both the 12 and the 9.7-inch Pro, I'd love to get rid of the home button and part of the bevel. These are really beautiful screen devices. If I can get rid of the home button and do Touch ID, embedded in the screen like Apple's patents for the last few years have shown, I would love it a lot more.
Okay. Well, guys, we're coming up on the end of the show tonight, and we've got just a couple of minutes. We had actually planned on having a little bit of a discussion on Scrivener, which 3 of us are now using. I'm more learning it right now than I would say using it. But I think what we'll do is we'll just, maybe make that next week's show topic, unless something between now and then becomes, real earth-shattering.
And the challenge will be to convince me to use it.
Okay, we'll throw down the gauntlet. Boom.
I'm not opposed to it, but it's $20, and I've already got a workflow.
On your Mac, then it's $45.
Yeah, and I've got a workflow already.
Worth every penny.
Yeah.
Well, we'll find out why Wes thinks that it's worth $65 to have it on both your Mac and your iPad next week. We won't find out this week, so we hope that you'll tune in and listen. Real quick, maybe one person with a favorite thing. Anybody? Just a real quick one? Nada. Well, let me share one just real quick. I have right here, this is called the Side Click. And what you see here, of course, this is an Amazon Fire TV remote. And they have them that work with the Roku remote and with the old Apple remote, and they are getting ready to come up with a new Apple TV remote. And what it is it's a universal remote that clamps on here. I don't know if you guys have ever tried to use a universal remote to run some of these set-top box devices like the Apple TV or Roku or Android, but they don't work real well.
No, they don't. I have 5 remotes on my TV tray next to my recliner, and sometimes I've got one in each hand.
Yeah, and so what I like about this is this was kind of just a smart little solution. This comes off, and you can replace the part that goes to the remote. You can get different ones, and it's real simple. I mean, it's just got power, volume, up and down as far as the channel. You can program all of these keys to do what you want real easily and real simply, and it's called the Side Click. And this was a Kickstarter project, but it's now out of Kickstarter Hades, which I'm kind of tired of. I backed this last summer and just got it a couple months ago. It was supposed to be out by Christmas. Anyway, something like that. I'm not entirely sure about the timing of all that. But I like it. I'm pleased that I got it, and they're not real expensive. Runs on 2 AA batteries. And so I have next to my computer here, I've got an old TV that I have the Amazon TV hooked up to, and I can very easily turn it on and watch stuff. And the NBC Olympics app on the Apple TV is horrid. NBC, what were you thinking? Did you really think people would use that thing? It's horrid, and so I actually use it.
They don't want you to.
Well, then don't put it in the App Store. Good grief. It's great on Amazon and on Roku. It works perfectly, but it does not work on Android, it does not work on iOS, and it does not work on the Apple TV at all. Definitely terrible. So, that's just my recommendation, and I just saw that, LaRosa, you had a Bluetooth keyboard. Do you want to make a recommendation of a Bluetooth keyboard?
Sure, yeah. It's a Logitech Bluetooth keyboard. It's one that I bought on Amazon for like $30. And the one thing that I like about it, it has both the Windows and Mac keys, and it can connect to 3 different Bluetooth devices. So
Yeah, I got it right.
connect to my phone, my iPad, and another device if I wanted to.
And so it looks like this.
Yep, that's the one I have.
Okay. And you think it's worth the cash?
Yep.
Is this the kind of thing you keep on a desk? Or let me mute that. or
Thank
do you carry it with you mobily, or both?
I just keep it. I carry a book bag wherever I go, like to work every day. So I just keep it in the bag. So whenever I need it, it's there.
I mean, what do you use it with?
In comparison to, say,
I use it with my iPad Mini.
Okay.
how good is it, say,
I got a
compared to
developer
a
friend that
MacBook
uses that
keyboard?
keyboard as well. That's he swears by it. He loves it a lot.
How good is it compared to a MacBook keyboard as far as touch typing?
I as far as the MacBook keyboard, the MacBook keyboard is definitely better, and it's a little weird because the keys are round, so it takes a little bit of getting used to. But I mean, once you use it for a little while, it's just like any other keyboard, really.
Okay, because I have the old version of this, which I still really like, but it's real similar. This thing has buttons up here, and the function buttons at 1, 2, and 3, so you can connect up to 3 different Bluetooth devices to it. And I like this keyboard because it feels exactly like this keyboard, only it connects to 3 different devices. But right now it's still like 90% as good as the Apple keyboard, so that's why I'm not using it, because if it's 90%, why don't you use the one that's 100% as good? But I've been looking at that. I've been real interested in the one you just recommended. So that's the K380 multi-device Bluetooth keyboard from Logitech. Logitech just makes good stuff. I like
They
it.
do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's $20 right now on
Oh, really?
Amazon.
It was
Wow.
30 when I bought it.
That's
Nice.
$19.99. Everybody buy now.
Yeah, that sounds like a deal to me.
I just spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
Well,
They have different colors on it too, but the
Yeah.
other colors are more expensive.
I didn't know they had different colors. I thought it was just that blue version that you've got.
Yeah, they got a gray one too.
Yeah, it's
Orange.
crazy. The red one is twice as much,
Well, they all are.
and so is what color is that? Black. So I guess people just don't like the blue color, so that's why it's cheap. But I'm on that. Anyway, it's been fun, guys. Thanks for being here with us, and we do this every week on Tuesday night at 9 o'clock. If you want to watch it live, then make sure you follow Theotek Podcast on Twitter, and you'll get the link once the show is getting ready to start. Just be prepared and ready to go. Since the link is different every week, we can't just tell you go here and you'll always get the right link to watch the show live. That's the best way to find it. Or you can follow me on Google Plus, although I don't ever do anything on Google Plus anymore except this, so that wouldn't be a useful thing to do. You can also go to theotek.com to find where to download the audio version of it. You can get it right there, or you can subscribe to it through iTunes. We've got a link right there at theotek.com. You can find the link there by going to the menu. It's up at the top. It says Theotek. And if you're watching on YouTube, thank you. Please subscribe. Please make comments, except please do not put comments to pornography, as someone tried to do this very day. And they were very quickly removed. And so please do not do that. Of course, as soon as I said that, now we're going to get all kinds of people. I doubt that. Anyway, enjoy, guys. Thanks for being with us. Those of you who are watching or listening, we appreciate it. And we'll be back next week again talking about a wonderful new writing software called Scrivener, among other things, as we always do with Theotek.
Yay!
Good evening.